Hi everyone, I'm Nigel Gordyke, one of the organisers of the Wilmot Terry Fox Run. It's my incredible honour to be speaking today with Darrell Fox, Terry's younger brother. Darrell is the Senior Advisor to the Terry Fox Research Institute, and he was part of Terry's support team during the Marathon of Hope, including when it was here in Wilmot. How are you, Darrell?
I'm very good, Nigel. How are you?
I'm doing really well, thanks. Usually when I do these interviews, I'm coming up with the questions myself. But this time, because it was you, I wanted to get people from the Wilmot community to submit some questions. So I'm going to read some out to you now.
That'd be great.
The first one is from Ginny Dybenko. We actually had a similar question when we did the Run Organisers workshop, and someone asked this of your brother Fred. If you had the opportunity to go back in time and knowing what you know now, what advice would you give Terry?
Wow, that's a really good question. I'm not sure what I would offer Terry. I mean, I'm not sure how Fred. I wish I had Fred's answer that I could cheat with. I was a younger sibling of Terry's and admired and respected everything he accomplished in his short life. I'm not sure there is anything that I could offer him, to be perfectly frank and honest, even though now I have 50 some odd years of experience and knowledge and apparent wisdom. He seemed to understand everything in terms of what life was about at a very young age. And, as we've often shared as family members, this came through his experience with cancer when he had to mature and matured very quickly. I think he got it right. I think he got everything right in terms of how to live a life and how to give unconditionally, to want to reach out and help other people. So, no, I'm actually still learning from Terry. It's still the opposite, and I don't think I could have, to be honest, anything to offer Terry at this time.
Our next question is from Chris Ehrat. She wonders if Terry would be eating at fast food restaurants along the way, or was he on a specific energy diet for endurance?
Yeah, well, things have changed quite dramatically there, Nigel, in terms of what Terry would probably indulge in when it came to food. Back then, it was anything and everything. Whatever was offered to Terry, he devoured. It was incredible to see how much food he consumed in a day. He would start the day not having much because he knew that he was about to run 12 miles in the morning component of his day. And then he would take that 3-hour break between 9 and 12 approximately. And that's when he would start the break with eating and consuming as much food as he possibly could. Things would be so much different today in terms of what is offered to athletes, both professional athletes, obviously, and recreational athletes. Energy bars were not a thing. Energy drinks were not a thing. And I think this would have helped Terry immensely to have the opportunities that are offered to athletes today.
Okay, have a question from Harold Krafka. Did Terry listen to music while he ran? And if so, what did he listen to?
Yeah, good question. And I actually participated, and I regretted it immensely. Terry was a country music fan, so he loved Dolly Parton, Johnny Cash, Hank Williams. Some of my dad's taste in music were similar to Terry's. So prior to embarking on the Marathon of Hope, I actually taped from records to cassettes. I know that these terms are foreign to people now, but that's what I did for Terry. And again, I regretted it because when I arrived on the scene in late May, I had to actually listen to this music as well. But it was important for Terry, and during the day, he rarely had time to relax. It just wasn't available to him. But certainly in the Maritime provinces, when he had that opportunity to go for a drive on his own in the van, that's what he listened to was Dolly Parton, Hank Williams, and he references this in the journal, just how much he enjoyed the drive. He had no destination. He wasn't sure where he was going when he jumped in that van. He always somewhat tried to find the ocean. That was always a goal for him, but that opportunity to just completely be on his own, relaxed and not having to run was so enjoyable for him.
We have a question from Susan Sutherland. The foundation has funded many cancer research projects since its inception. Can you tell us which projects do you think Terry would have been most pleased with the results?
Another really good question, Susan. Thank you very much. I think what's amazing about Terry and his vision was that, I mean, he could have run across the country for osteosarcoma, bone cancer, the cancer that claimed his leg and eventually his life. But he had the vision to look beyond his own form of suffering to reach out and help each and every person diagnosed with cancer. And there are over 200 variations of cancer out there. So I think in light of that, I don't think Terry would have a preference. He was obviously touched by young people, by those going through cancer at a very young age, and it really had, meeting Greg Scott obviously was an important moment for Terry, because he thought, I mean, we sometimes suggest Terry was brave and courageous. He was, but he really thought the heroes were those younger than him who were fighting cancer and never complained and were brave throughout. Those were the real heroes. I don't think it, so it'd be, you'd think that perhaps he would lean towards pediatric cancers and the tremendous progress we've made in that area over the years, but I don't think he would. I don't think Terry would choose one cancer over another.
I have a bunch of questions here. These questions are from grade 3 and grade 4 students at Forest Glen Public School in New Hamburg. And thanks to Mrs. Hanson-Berry for sending them to us. I thought we'd get like 2 or 3 really good questions, but we got like 12 and they're all in great questions. So I didn't want to leave any out. So here we go.
Okay. I'm not asked how old I am I?
Nothing that difficult. Okay, what do you think inspired your brother to make the decision to run across Canada?
It really was what he experienced. Terry often said that, being diagnosed with cancer was one thing, and losing his leg to the disease was also a shock because it happened so quickly and suddenly. But actually going through chemotherapy and seeing the suffering of others was really what changed him and influenced him. And he realized he needed to add something else to his life, and that was to give back. So certainly experience what he went through, and Terry had 16 months of chemotherapy treatments where he saw cancer up close and personal. And he made a promise during that period that if he ever made it out of the cancer ward alive, he would never forget those that he had left behind. So that was his inspiration for the Marathon of Hope, was what he experienced going through chemotherapy.
Did Terry always set big goals for himself?
Yeah, he was. The personality was there early days. Even from a young age, Terry loved to set goals. He loved to challenge himself. He had to be in order to accomplish what he did in his short life in terms of running across the country on an artificial leg. He was extremely competitive. He was very stubborn. He despised losing, especially to family members. That didn't go over well with Terry. We all have that within ourselves as a family. We're very competitive. And so I think those qualities were there. He just didn't have a purpose, the right purpose to direct that personality. And certainly cancer offered that to him. But he was always a very driven, determined individual.
Did Terry put others first when he was growing up and try to help others?
No, really good question. No, he did not. And that's one of the things he regretted. And again, that's something that cancer offered to him, was he realized that he lived a very selfish life, that he thought of only one person growing up, and that was Terry Fox. He excelled in school, though through hard work. He did well with sports because he was driven and determined. But those were goals and accomplishments solely for his own personal satisfaction. So it was really, again, cancer that opened Terry's eyes to the need to help others and add something to his life that was never there previously. So no, Terry was not the perfect person, and he never was, and he felt when he was younger.
Your family has stayed involved with the Terry Fox Foundation and keeping Terry's legacy going. Do you think the next generation will be active for the cause as well?
I don't no, I don't think they'll be active in the cause. They are active in the cause, and it pleases us, the older generation, immensely. This is something that was handed off to us. My very much older brother Fred, my younger sister Judy, and myself. Never pressured. Mom hoped that family members would stay involved or want to be involved, but again, it came to us naturally and whenever we were willing. I didn't join the foundation until 1990, 10 years after Terry's Marathon of Hope. Now we have the next generation, the grandchildren of Betty and Raleigh Fox, Terry's nieces and nephews that are keen, and it's been incredible to have them involved because they offer something that we don't have anymore. Youth. we're not that young anymore. So and they care. They deeply care about Terry because I think all of us have, Fred, Judy, and I have installed in them the qualities that are so important to Terry, and I think they demonstrate them immensely.
Did Terry ever feel like giving up?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I'll say no. He at least he didn't share that externally. Was he frustrated at times? Absolutely. Was he disappointed at times and saddened by how things were going, specifically during the Marathon of Hope? Of course. But I don't think, giving up is part of Terry Fox's vocabulary. I mean, he was one who loved obstacles, loved overcoming them, and he loved challenges. And so that was just a part of who he evolved into becoming.
Did Terry feel lonely during his Marathon of Hope?
Wow, these are really good.
Grade 3 and grade 4.
Yeah, I like to think so. It was really the Marathon of Hope was all consuming. It was not just, clocking in at 9 o'clock and, for your job and finishing at 5 and then leaving it all behind. It was 24/7 for Terry. So there was, even though there were people around him, Doug was there from the very beginning. I joined up on May 31st. We had people from the Canadian Cancer Society, great people, who became great friends, who were always there. I think Terry probably had a sense of loneliness throughout the run, but again, he was able somehow to park those feelings in order to focus on what was directly in front of him, and that was the Marathon of Hope.
Did Terry feel tired after running?
Did Terry feel tired? Terry felt tired during. Terry woke up. I mean, this is what's been amazing about reading. I mean, every day I start the day by reading from Terry's journal. I look forward the night in anticipation the night before to waking up and reading what Terry wrote 40 years ago. And how many times is the first sentence, I woke up exhausted, I'm completely drained. And yet he gets out there and runs 24, 26, 28, sometimes 30 miles. It defied logic, what Terry went through in 1980 and what he put himself through. So he was always tired. He was always fatigued. Some days were better than others, but he really drew from support. When people were cheering and clapping for him along the road, that really diminished and removed the fatigue that he was feeling for just a brief period of time. But he really appreciated all the support he was getting.
Was Terry proud of himself after the marathon?
Absolutely. There are words from Terry when he speaks about having to finish the run early, not being able to complete it. Though he vowed that if he could get out there again, he would. But he never saw the run as being a failure. Because it's all about trying your very best. I mean, that's what we always say. Terry never finished the Marathon of Hope, but we don't think of him as a failure. We see him as extremely successful. Why? Because he tried his very best, and that's what Terry said in 19. I did everything I could, and no one would argue with those words.
Did you live in the van that followed Terry on his run?
Yes, I did. Yes, I did, Nigel. And whoever asked that question, yes, the smelly Ford van. Yes, I would have to admit I found it difficult. There were just, I mean, I look at the space now and I can't believe 3 grown adults lived in this space. Terry, for some reason, had the lower bunk and more space. For some reason, I don't know why, but and Doug Alward and I, we were up in the bunk. Again, I can't imagine that we slept in it. So I had my hand up whenever there was an offer for free accommodations, or I was in. I also will never admit to actually cleaning the porta potty. I don't think now Doug says I did, but I've completely removed that from my thinking. So it smelled, but I think it worked. I think the smell was very effective because it kept people away from the van. So Terry was able to have some privacy during this period as well. But yeah, the van is incredible. I'm quite attached to it actually, because it immediately takes me back to 1980 and some incredible memories.
What was it like to have Terry Fox as your brother?
Yeah, it's hard because I don't know what it's like not to have Terry Fox as my brother, because he's always been my brother. So I am somewhat able to separate Terry Fox, iconic figure, from Terry Fox, my brother. So there is a separation there. I feel very blessed and fortunate that I am Terry Fox's brother, and that's always that feeling will always exist. And I'm just thankful that people like you, Nigel, Terry Foxers from across the country are, carrying the torch now. So we always say we have an extended family, a really, really, really big family. And that's why we're so prominent and so successful, I think, 40 years removed from the Marathon of Hope.
Did you ever run with Terry either during the marathon or to train?
Well, yes. So two-part. Okay, I see that a two-part question. Yes. So the training part, people may not realize just how many miles Terry ran preparing for the Marathon of Hope. He ran over 3,000 miles, 5,000 kilometers, even before he dipped his artificial leg in the Atlantic Ocean to begin the Marathon of Hope. And I and Doug Alward also ran with Terry a bit, not a lot, but a bit, especially in the summer of '79. Terry was preparing for the Prince George to Boston Marathon, and that was the event that really confirmed to him that he was ready to run across the country. So we would go to a dirt track close to our house in Port Coquitlam, BC, and we would run loops of that track. And I remember it vividly because there were the competitive foxes. Terry, obviously I was able to run a little bit quicker than Terry as an able-bodied person, and Terry was trying to prevent from being lapped. So we had this internal competition as we were running around the track. I didn't run as much with Terry during the Marathon of Hope, and this was for very good reason. Terry, again, I speak to how competitive he was. He had a difficulty with people running beside him, because it was so hard for him to run the way he did. He had to take that extra hop on his good leg to allow his artificial leg to swing through. Whereas Nigel or myself, if we were running with Terry, we find it fairly comfortable. The competitiveness in Terry forced him to try and make you work and make you sweat, or make me work and sweat. And he just couldn't keep that pace up and run 26 miles every day. So whenever we did run, and you saw, there are, obviously photos and videos of people running with Terry, they're usually behind him, where out of view, where Terry couldn't see them. And that was what happened mostly in the major cities when we were crossing the country.
That's interesting, because I always wonder why Terry's always at the front of the pack there. That makes sense. Okay. Yeah. Okay, one final question. Our school focuses on hero traits, HERO, hope, efficacy, resilience, optimism, as well as gratitude, empathy, and mindfulness. Terry had all these character traits. What trait stands out for you when you think of Terry?
Yeah, um, it's difficult picking one. What I really admire about Terry Fox is his humbleness. You know, the person that had to start the started the Marathon of Hope in St. John's, Newfoundland on April 12th was the same person who was forced to stop on September 1st in Thunder Bay. Even though so much attention was thrown towards Terry, so much praise was, you know, sent his way, he quickly deflected it elsewhere. It never ever entered within. He was the same, you know, person from small town BC that started, and that's what I always, because you see such a difference in terms of our, you know, sports personalities and entertainers out there. Once they become famous, they change, and they think they're better than others. That never happened with Terry. He you know, one of his more famous speeches talked about, "I'm equal with all of you. I'm no better. I'm no worse." And that's what I've really always admired. And there's so many, you know, as you just listed, so many traits that you could focus on. I think that's the one that I admire the most.
That is fantastic. Thank you so much for your time today, Darrell, and we do appreciate you answering the questions from our wonderful community here in Wilmot. Thank you so much.
They were great questions, Nigel. Thank you very much. Really enjoyed it.